Hi there, I'm Dawn Monroe, and I've been getting so many questions about the difference between saving in OneDrive and 365 and Teams and SharePoint. I thought I would just go through the program I've been delivering and just share it out with the world. So here we go. Let's follow that file and figure out what to do with these files. So what I've got here is I want to talk about just getting organized in your Microsoft environment. You're going to hear terms like the cloud, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. And for a lot of us coming off of the server setups we've had for years, this can be a little challenging at first to figure out how to get organized with everything. So I'm just going to walk through some of that and hopefully clear it up for you. Okay, so let's do this. So first off, I want to talk about what is even Microsoft 365. So it is an online version of your Microsoft apps. It's a subscription. So if you've used Microsoft for many, many years, you know that you would purchase the product, it would get loaded on your computer, and it stayed that way for years until you got the next version. Now it's different. You have a subscription. You can still get those programs downloaded to your computer, those full-blown Excel and Word and PowerPoint programs. But you also have the option of logging in online to web versions of all of those apps. And that's what the 365 is. It's the subscription version that you can get via the internet. When you have that subscription, you can still completely download those software products to your computer. But you have this nice option to get into these kind of programs now. So from here, you'll want to know how to even get in. And that would be going to office.com. Now they've recently rebranded. It was Microsoft Office. Now it's Microsoft 365. So you could type in any of those and you'll get eventually to this sign in window. So you'll need to know the email address for that particular account. You'll need to know the password. And if you have some multi-level security, then you may have to also authenticate who you are. All right, so big terminology that's been coming at us now is what is the cloud? The cloud is basically storage. Anywhere that we can get on the internet, we can save and get to these files. And I tell you what, I really love it because I use more than one computer. And as long as I'm on one computer and I save my files into my OneDrive account, I can get to those files anywhere else I can get on the internet. So that could be like from a phone, from a tablet device, from some other computer that I just happen to be sitting at that day and I want to log in and get to my different files and applications. You can do all of that now via the cloud. And so the cloud in your Microsoft account, the one just for you, is called OneDrive. Microsoft OneDrive. That's your storage area for your particular account. You can compare that to other products like Google has their Drive. That's cloud storage. There's products like Dropbox. That's also cloud storage. So we're storing our files in an internet location where we can get to them. This also simplifies the backup process for many, many companies. So a lot of companies are moving to this particular setup. Okay, so you've been hearing also about something called SharePoint. So Microsoft has a product called SharePoint, which is basically the big umbrella over all of these things. SharePoint is behind the scenes for your Microsoft 365 programs, for your OneDrive cloud storage, and for your Microsoft Teams. Those of you that have started using Teams, SharePoint is behind the scenes on all of that. Teams is basically a big SharePoint site for your company. Okay, so don't be afraid of these terms. Just get familiar with them and figure out what they are and how you can use them. So Microsoft Teams, I just mentioned it. It is a part of your SharePoint setup. It is a Microsoft product. It's a place where you can gather together groups of individuals called teams, and you can work together in these areas called channels. You can upload files there. You can have instant messaging with the chat system. You can set up like a news feed, so it's almost like having a social media feed for that group of people, just specific to that group of people. You can invite people that are external, like a contractor, into a team. A lot of those things are going to be set up and managed by your IT department. If you're in a larger company, you probably are relying on your IT department for a lot of different things. If you're a smaller organization, you may have to do some of that admin work yourself and figure it out. Thank goodness for YouTube, right? So the Microsoft Teams, of course it has these virtual meetings. You've been hearing about Zoom. You've been using Zoom and Microsoft Teams and other products. But it's much, much more than just a virtual meeting. It is a whole ecosystem of things. But focusing on your files today, because that's what I really want to focus on, is organizing the files. And what does that look like for you? If your desk looks like this, then your computer, your digital files might look a little bit like this too. If you're one of those people that just hit save and wherever it points you, you drop the file in there and you just are hoping that you'll be able to find that file later and in your recent files, we probably need to come up with a system. So I want you to think about what kind of systems might you use in your digital file setup. And for those of you that are coming off a shared server environment and moving into 365, this can be a little discombobulating. You're not sure what is happening with your files and where to even go to find the files. So let's say that when you saved files last year, you were pointed for a default file location. You were always saving in your folder on the T drive. That your IT department said save on the T drive, and that's where you always put things. So what's happened now is that you have, with the 365 account, an individual cloud storage called the OneDrive. And if a file is really for your own purposes, you're going to store it on your OneDrive. That's still a cloud location. It is still a place where you can share that file with someone if you need to eventually. But it's really, think about OneDrive just for you. Okay? The other locations would be, maybe you're going to store a file in Microsoft Teams because everyone in your group needs access to that. Maybe there is a SharePoint document library and that's where you need to store it. If you need guidance on this, you really should be communicating with your IT department or within your department, how are other people doing it, and what's the going way to organize. Now, you could have varied kinds of systems. I'm shouting this out to everyone, so I don't know what kind of storage system you might have, but you really need to think about your digital storage much like your file cabinet with real papers in it. So each folder is like a file cabinet, and within that, those subfolders are your drawers, and within that, that's your hanging files. So you got to get organized. And I don't know what that's going to look like for you. That may be organizing by department. It may be organizing by date or project or by an event. And so you need to be thinking about that. You don't just throw stuff in the file drawer, at least I hope not. You have a system that you are trying to put those things in so that when you want them later, you can go find them. It's the exact same thing with your digital storage. So thinking about organizing the folder structure and exactly where you're going to find those things, you've got to know where you're putting it so you can find it. Here's a little screen capture, and I blocked out some information there, so it looks a little funny. But I wanted to show you, you've seen the file folders before. We've also got a little icon with some buildings. That's a SharePoint document library. Maybe you're starting to see those show up, and your IT department maybe has said, hey, that's a place where we want you to store specific kind of files. You're also going to see your OneDrive, and you could have a personal OneDrive, departmental OneDrives. It just depends on how things were set up. One of the wonderful concepts around all these Microsoft products is that they can be set up in so many different ways. So when I teach these things to groups of individuals from different companies, it's good to recognize that everybody could have a different setup depending on what they've decided to do within that organization. When you are working in an application, like this is a sample from Microsoft Word, when I get into store and save my file, it's probably pointed me to my favorite default storage location. In my case, it's taking me to my business OneDrive account. Now, yours might have been taking you to a server location, and now it's showing up with these OneDrive folders and SharePoint sites. So those are just other locations where you can store the files. But I want to tell you there's some real benefits to storing in the cloud. You're going to be able to collaborate and co-author on files with people same time together. You're going to be able to go back in a document, in a version history. These are things that it gives you with the file storage in the cloud. Even the auto saving, you can turn on the auto saving, and it needs to be in a cloud storage location like OneDrive to be able to do that for you. So just notice you can navigate here. Now if you are not sure about where to go in here and you'd rather see your old Windows Explorer file save as dialog box, you can get to that same box from Browse. You can click and go there if you need to, and it looks more like this, what you're used to, and you'll see those OneDrive accounts or any other SharePoint kind of sites and things, and you can navigate where you want to go on the left and then dive into the specific folders on the right. Now, what about saving files in teams? So this is what it looks like when you are in a team, and you can navigate to a particular team, and within each team there is going to be channels, and within those channels you're going to have places to store files. So here I've got the Files tab, and here you can see a few files are loaded in there, and you can begin new files in here. You can upload more files. You can hit sync. All of these tools along here you can activate while you're in this Teams environment. When you want to work with an individual file and you actually point to it in the live environment, you'll see that there's a share icon and an ellipsis to do a whole bunch more things. Let me bring up environment now so you can see. This is a Microsoft Teams. Here's Dawn's demo team, and I'm clicked on one of the channels. Within that channel, I have a tab called Files, and here's where I can create brand new things. I can upload files and folders. I can share from here. I'll click the share link so you can see. It's a lot like addressing an email address. The people in my location are going to populate as I type in their name. And then I get to choose. Can they edit it, or are they trouble? Do I only want them to view it because they mess up my files? There's also going to be, for many of you, an option to copy the link and just give a link to a file. So that just depends. In some organizations, I've learned that they don't like to just send a raw link out to anyone. They really want it to be shared specifically with individuals. So if you don't see that, that's probably why, just an extra layer of security. So there's your different options up there. Notice there's a search bar. You can click up in that search bar and type whatever you're looking for and find those different things. Let's say I'm looking for a handout. So here, when I type in the word handout, I'm seeing some recent handout files that I have been working with. Okay, so you can use that search bar if you need to. Let's clear that out. And then back here, if I'm working with a specific file and I point at it, do you see how it activates the share? So I could share from here, and I also can click the ellipsis and get access to all those tools as well. Now, one thing people have said to me is, I'm not sure why the file seems like it shows up in different places and I'm getting a little confused. Well, hey, that could be happening. I've noticed here I'm bringing up, this is me logged on to a tab on an internet window. This happens to be Google Chrome. And here I have access to my OneDrive on the internet. You'll see that I can get into all my Microsoft apps through the app launcher. So this is the process I showed you earlier, where you can log on to office.com. You can get access to that 365 account, and then you can go to all of these apps and programs. And here is where you can get to OneDrive and do other kind of things. Some of these products are only available online, like Forms and Planner. So take a look in there. If you've never looked in there, it's worth poking around. But what you'll see in here is it's coming up with different files, maybe that I used recently. Again, I can begin new things from here. I can upload files and folders from here. And I've also got quick access, look, to my Teams. So you'll see that you'll have those, and some of those may be SharePoint sites as well. I can also see things that have been shared with me, and I can star things as a favorite. So getting used to how this is set up and where I can find things is going to be helpful. You can also see there's a search bar here. There are search bars throughout these products. So It just, the good news is, and I think I've got a slide of that, is that you can get to these things from many, many locations. The files are in there. Good news, you can get to them from a lot of different places. You can find your files and work on them. So remember, you've got search bars and all those different kind of products. Keep an eye on those if you're struggling to find something. To summarize why we would want to use the cloud environment, you can get access to your applications like Excel and Word and Outlook and all those things on the road from wherever you can get the internet. You can get cloud storage, so that's backing up your files, that's giving you the ability to autosave, that's giving you the ability to share and co-author files with people at the same time, and you get access to that Microsoft Teams environment, and you can be chatting and things. I just showed you this live from OneDrive, so you can see, again, a screen capture here, just pointing out in this red box where you can share, or you could click the ellipsis to activate different actions on those files. You may have noticed when you are in the Windows Explorer environment that you're seeing little icons with these. It's just letting you know what the status is. Is this file stored out in the cloud? Has it been downloaded recently and used on that computer? I have found that just double clicking and activating the file, that it opens really quickly. So it's not like it's slow for me at that point. Now, I don't know, that might be different in your organization. You might also see the double circular arrows circling around, kind of like a recycling option. It is the file syncing. Here's a screen capture. Let's say you make a meeting in Teams. Maybe I'm going to do a training and I want to upload the handout file into the Teams meeting before we even begin. I sure can do that. Once I have created a meeting, it's organized a link for me, it's ready to go, and I've saved that meeting to my Teams calendar or my Outlook calendar. If I go into Teams and open it back up, now I'm going to see some extra tabs in there, and one of them will be files. So you can begin to upload files directly into a team meeting at that point. If you happen to be using like a product like Excel or Word, and you decide in that moment, hey, I want to share this particular file, you can go right then to the top of the program and use the share option and simply type in those names just like you are addressing an email. And one thing I would make sure is that you're managing the access. Do they have access to the file? Can they edit it or can they view it? Make sure that you're setting that up so that it works correctly for you. This is a really cool feature. It is called version history. If your file is stored in a cloud environment and you go into File Info, you'll see that you may have access to the version history. And I've used this a few times. If you're sharing a file with a group of people and maybe somebody gets in there that doesn't know how to manage the formulas and functions, and maybe they messed it up, and you would really like to go back to how it looked yesterday before you let this person touch it, then you could jump back in the version history, and it just makes a great time saver for you if something has happened to the file and you need to jump back a beat or two. Okay, so you might want to utilize the apps that come available on your mobile devices. So here is at the time of recording, the latest and greatest look. So they've changed the Office app to Microsoft 365. You've got that logo now with the blue and purpley logo. That's the 365. But a few things I'll point out on the mobile app. You can work with PDF documents on here, so signing documents, converting to PDFs, that kind of thing can be really handy. And the two that I would point out that I really like here is that you could take this app and take a picture of text that's printed, and it will upload it, and then you can edit it in Word or one of the other apps. You could do that. You also could take basically a scan, image to text, image to table. You could take a image that is a spreadsheet or a table looking setup, get that image and then upload it directly into Excel so that you could edit it in there too. And those actually work pretty well, so they're worth a shot if you need to do something like that. Okay, so that wraps up where I wanted to take you today. I hope that this has helped you follow that file. I again been getting a lot of questions on this, so I thought I would just put it out in the universe, and I hope that this helps you kind of the bigger picture of using the Microsoft 365 environment, OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint, and finding those files. Hey, be sure and subscribe. Thank you.